Welcome to the Gear Garage Live Show. This weekly YouTube show covers whitewater rafting, river safety,
oh God, I lost my paddle,
gear, and anything else Zach feels like rambling on about.
Well, happy Tuesday and welcome to the Gear Garage Live Show. This is a show I try to do every Tuesday live on YouTube. You might be listening to this as a podcast. If you do, sucks to be you, because the YouTube live show is where it's at. The podcast is just the audio stripped out, and because I'm not a very good speaker, you're stuck with crappy audio. So ideally, you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. If you don't subscribe, hit the subscribe button. It means a lot to me. I'm trying to get subscribers. It makes me feel cool, and I really appreciate it. With that, let's get started. Today we have two things. I will talk about our sponsor and then answer questions. And one of our sponsors is River Hardware, the store that I have. I have a little online store where I sell stuff. And I just got a huge order of pulleys. These Rock Exotica pulleys. There's this one here. This is the mini machine pulley. And this one here, this is the machine pulley. It's a little bit bigger. And I sell these because they're the best. I mean, they're literally the best pulleys you can get, in my opinion. And I've played with a lot of them. They're easy to work with. They're machined from one piece of aluminum. They have sealed bearings. They're super smooth. They cost more because they're better. This little one can handle up to 11 millimeter ropes, which is most of what we're using. That's 7/16 of an inch. Most of us aren't using ropes that big. This little thing, this is just by comparison, this is the SMC micro pulley a lot of you have. The mini machine is not that much bigger. If you're carrying this in your life jacket, this thing has it's not the best pulley. Actually, this thing costs like $25. It's a really basic pulley, and efficiency wise, not that good. If you put this pulley in your system, you're just taking part of your mechanical advantage out by using this pulley. So let's just say your mechanical advantage theoretically is 3-to-1. With these, you're probably like 2.6-to-1. With these, you're probably like 2.3-to-1, honestly, or worse. And especially if this is in your PFD, it gets rusted in there. Water gets in here. The action doesn't work as well. You can just feel this. If you have one of these compared to this thing, which is super smooth. And I've experimented with a bunch of these. I've done some videos. You can watch the videos on my channel somewhere else, comparing these pulleys to other ones. Even this bigger one. This is the classic one a lot of you have, the SMC Swiftwater. It's called Swiftwater. I use these for years, and it's a good pulley. A bigger diameter is nice, but this little one is more efficient than this big one, and it's lighter, so it takes up less space. It doesn't weigh as much. These ones are decent, but if you can just feel it. You can have it in your hand and just feel it compared to this, and it's just night and day. These things are just so smooth, and that's why I sell them. I focus on selling the best stuff, the stuff that I use that's the best. So these SMC pulleys are fine. These Rock Exotica ones are just butter. They're really amazing. I just finally got the shipment in a week or two ago. And so if you go to riverhardware.com, you can find these. If you're looking for great pulleys, I'd highly recommend them. If you're carrying this in your PFD, this is 1.9 ounces. This significantly better pulley is 2.8 ounces. So it's 0.9 ounces more, less than an ounce more, for a significant increase in usefulness. I'm not carrying pulleys in my PFD, so that's not a thing that I think is a big deal. But if you're carrying this in your PFD, this thing's just a tiny bit heavier. But as this thing gets wet, it just the bearings get rusted and trashed. And I've seen some of these come out of PFDs after being in there for years, and they barely turn, and they're at that point useless. Where I did carry this in my pulley for a couple of years, and it's been fine. So that's the word from our sponsor. A quick talk about pulleys and the Rock Exotica ones that I sell at riverhardware.com. And with that, let's get on to questions. And that's what the show is. I'm here to answer questions. If you have questions, you can submit them through Whitewater Guidebook. If you get to figure out how to get there, I'm not going to show you now if you know how already, if you don't already know. But I get asked questions throughout the week that are hard to answer, whether it's through Whitewater Guidebook, or sometimes I get emails, or I get tweets, or I get Instagram direct messages, which I may not respond to those because they don't always get to me, whether they're emails or direct messages. But if I do find out about questions, I answer them here because the answers are sometimes really complicated. I can't just quickly write you an email and answer your question or like direct message you back because it's really nuanced or I just don't know. Sometimes I see the questions ahead of time. Sometimes I'm really busy and this is the first time I've seen them. This week I've seen all of these questions ahead of time, so I've thought about them a little bit. And so with that intro to questions, and if you have more questions, throw them in the comments. I'll get to them. That's the point of the show is I'm just going to answer questions. I'm not doing a whole lot more here except for talking about pulleys. So the first question is about oar tethers. I've heard a variety of opinions regarding oar tethers. Some say oar tethers made out of webbing could cause a boat to get stuck, so they recommend a small diameter rope that will break if that happened. I've heard others say the likelihood of that is low, and using a small diameter rope is too much of a risk of breaking and losing the oar. I've watched your older video about oar tethers, but just curious if your opinion has changed and what your company uses. Always appreciate the information. So my opinions do change all the time. Like not major. Like I'm probably always gonna carry a knife inside my PFD. I'm probably rarely gonna wear an external knife. That's not something I'm gonna probably change. But I'd move a little bit. Like when I use the NRS Cool Guy PFD, the Justin Bieber, I do carry external knife because there's no good pockets for a knife. And so my answers, my feelings on things are nuanced and they're not just cut and dry. There's not always and nevers. And with oar tethers, they could change. I don't remember what I said, but I'm going to tell you what I think. First of all, I know people say you should have thin line for your oar tether. So if your oar gets stuck, that line can break. And I think that's kind of ridiculous personally. And it's because you don't know that line's going to even break when you want it to. Like what's the rope is strong, even thin rope. So how thin are we talking about? Dental floss or parachute cord? Like finding the cord that breaks at the exact tension between just getting your oar back and super stuck. That's ridiculous. Like I think that's insane. So I'm not on that train at all. In my opinion, just get a rope and tie your boat to your oar. I don't care if it's webbing. I don't care if it's rope. I don't care if it's Spectraline or dental floss. When you're using oar locks, you gotta tie your boat to your oar to your boat. Now, pins and clips, just another talk about pins and clips. You don't have to do it because it locks in and when it pops out, it has a little sleeve around it. So, like, I don't usually have to tie my oar to my boat, but those of you using oar locks and spinnies and all that, you gotta tie your oar to the boat. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter. You can buy some $40 pair of things from some company selling you something where they have little rings and they clip together. You can do that, or you can just use. I mean, we just use half-inch. Is it half-inch webbing? We just use half-inch webbing that we cut and just tie a bowline on both sides to the boat and the oar. But sometimes we don't have half-inch webbing, so we use just thin rope. So I don't have a affirmative opinion about this. I mean, your idea is if you pop an oar and you lose it, you can get your oar back. Whatever it takes to make that happen. If you jam your oar and it gets stuck in a thing, you just suck. Like, don't do that. Have better oar management. Don't jam your oar and get stuck in a thing. Like, I don't know. And you want it to break when that happens. That's kind of just, I would say, don't suck. Get better at rowing. Don't let that happen. Now, and if it does happen, you're going to deal with the consequences because you made a mistake. But the odds of your rope being the exact strength to break at the exact moment when you think you need it to for safety, I think is weird. So that's my opinion. Yeah, I mean, yeah, pins and clips. Yeah, you don't have to tie your oar to. To me, it's so weird. You got to tie your oar to your boat. It's just weird to me. Like, I don't get that. Like, let's just tie my oar to the boat. It's just one more thing to get tangled in. One more thing to do. Just go pins and clips. Just get better at rowing and get pins and clips. Okay, moving on. All right, raft step. I'm contacting Oregon guides such as yourself to get some thoughts to the product. So let me open up. I wasn't ready for this. Raftstep.com. Let me go to this website, and I got sent this by the guy who has this company who invented this thing. I'm gonna share it with you all. Share my thoughts really quick. And it's basically like a little thing you can use to step into your raft. And so my thoughts are, I think this is, by the way, I think this is super fishing related. If you look at all that's a fisher dude, and I'm sure he's wearing a life jacket. Probably want to have people in their website have life jackets. That's a fisher dude. There's fishing people talking about it. It's super fishing. And so I think if you're running a raft in shallow water and you want to get in really easy, this makes a lot of sense. I'm a whitewater person, and that's what this channel is about. This channel is not about fishing. I'm more about rapids, and I'm more of like a class 3+4 or 5 guy. I'm not like a class 2-3 guy. So like maybe class 2-3 people might like this. Class 2-3 people like the raft ladders, right? And all those things. I think for whitewater, for my use for again harder rapids, I'm not going to bring this because it's just one more thing to do. That metal is something you could get caught on, and we're not usually stepping from the water into our boat like shown there, right? Usually we're up to our our shoulders in water, or pulling ourselves in. This could actually make it harder to pull yourself in because it's against the boat. And so I don't see the value for whitewater people. Like if think the kind of boating I'm gonna do is like think of the Rogue. It just doesn't have value to me in the Rogue, but I can see how it does. It's super cool for people fishing in shallow water like this. So that's my opinion. But I want to share this with everybody who might need this. And if anybody else has an opinion that's different, shoot it in the comments. Okay, so just to sum it up, probably super cool for fishing, not super useful for whitewater, in my opinion. Okay, moving on. Next question. Get back to the question. How do I get back to the question? There we go. All right. Topic, high water PFD. Do you have any experience with the NRS Rapid Responder PFD? Can you compare it to the Big Water Guide? The Rapid Responder doesn't have pockets, which is my literal hang up with the guide. Wait, the guide has pockets. I don't know. Slightly less flotation, but I'm not a big guy. Okay, so let's look at the NRS Guide PFD first. This is the one I call the Justin Bieber. Let me find it. NRS. It's the Big Water Guide. Let me open that page up. This is the Big Water Guide. I've personally given up on getting PFD manufacturers to make appropriate PFDs for rafting. I'm just over it. I've written enough emails. I've talked to enough people. I'm kind of tired of talking about it. This is probably just what everybody should get, honestly. And because nobody's doing it. The Astral, the new one, whatever it's called, the high flow one, is good for some body types, but it's not. It's designed for kayaking. This is designed for rafting. It's 22 pounds, 9 ounces of flotation. It has decent pockets. It has the stupid hand warmers. It has these weird nipple piercings. It has the mole. I don't know what I'm going to use that for. You kind of have to do external knife on it. Whatever, just do it. Pockets are they're fine. Comes in a bunch of colors, which is nice. It comes in some bright colors, which I really appreciate. They when it was, safety yellow, orange, black is, if you want to be special ops. Blue if you want to look blue. So yeah, I just think this is I don't know. I'm giving up on trying to do better than this. Everybody just settle for mediocre and we'll move on. So, so what he's asking about though in his question is comparing this to the Rapid Responder PFD. So let's Rapid Responder PFD NRS. Let's look at that one to compare it. I've checked it out. I've never seen it. So that's this thing. It's designed for rescue people who don't. This is for people that don't go in the water. That's what it's designed for. It has a little bit less flotation. It looks. Oh, there's colors options too. Let's see. There's red. What's really weird is that it's yellow, but it's mostly black. That's insane to me. Well, I think part of the reason. I don't know. And this is red, but it's mostly black. And this is black, and it's black. I would want this brighter, honestly, if I was designing this. It's probably a lot of black because they put this really cool Velcro so people can put badges on, and the mole is probably all black. And there's probably these colors because emergency services probably have some people I don't know, a technician is probably yellow, an IC is probably red. I don't know. Black is probably a cop or something. There's probably a reason that they have these colors. I like yellow. It's just this isn't yellow. This is black, unfortunately. So it's probably fine for rafting. It not having pockets is a deal breaker for me. Where are you going to carry your flip line? Where am I going to put my phone? There's no way I have to have an external knife. I don't see. Actually, there's some places for knives. I don't like the buckle right here in front, the safety harness in the front like this. It makes it harder to get into a raft because it's just sticking out. It's one more thing to get caught on the perimeter line or just like stick out farther. I really appreciate them on the side for rafting if I'm going to have one. So I'm going to say no, this thing sucks for rafting. But if you're, a rescue squirrel and doing rescue stuff for an agency and standing on shore most of the time, it's probably great. You got your Velcro, so you can Velcro your badges on. You got the whatever. You can do night rescues. People can see you at night with their lights because you have the little reflector thing there. So I'm going to say just go with this one, the Justin Bieber. It's $150, costs less. It's adequate. It's like it's not even adequate. It's almost adequate. PFD manufacturers can do so much better for rafters than one flotation. They can do way better. So we're gonna say this is almost adequate. It'll do the job. I wore it on a couple trips. That was fine. Yep. Okay, so back to questions. Hopefully I answered that question. Question on your wing raft. Hi, I'm thinking about buying a wing and understand you run a bunch of these in your trips. Can you offer any commentary on the internal carrying capacity of a Surge as it compares to the SOTAR Classic? Is it dramatically different? Understanding that's a subjective term. So carrying capacity is two things. Is it carrying capacity weight or carrying capacity volume? Like how much stuff can you bring volume-wise or how much can you bring weight-wise? Volume to me doesn't matter. You just stack it up high. Like I guess if you need to see, you can't have it too high in front of you, but you can stack things pretty high. So volume to me isn't a big deal. Weight is a big deal. So let's take a second. Let's look up these. Let's look at the SOTAR Classic. 16. I think it's the ST. There we go. SOTAR Classic. This is it. It's just a classic boat. Let's see if we can look at a better picture. Is there a better picture of the best I can do to see the airframe? $8,700. $8,780. Oh, pretty expensive. I could look at this. There we go. That's a good photo. So, in my opinion, if you're gonna do the Rogue, regular water metaphoric, I don't know, just do like John Day. You're just going boating class 3. This is a perfectly adequate boat. I'm not stoked on the design. I don't like this super long water line. I don't mind the long water line too much, but with all that rocker, it's a little bit much. It's got a lot of rocker, long water line. It's wider than the Surge, and so because it's wider, it's the same length, and this has 22-inch tubes. Surge has 23-inch tubes. So with the Surge having 23-inch tubes, there's just more tube. It could, even if this is a bigger boat, they can probably handle the same weight. Like this has more tube because it's wider, but the Surge has 23-inch tubes, so the tubes make a big difference. I'm going to say they can probably handle the same weight, but volume-wise, this can handle more volume. But volume to me, again, isn't a big deal because I'll just stack things up. I don't care how high things get, especially if it's light. And I don't need to see in front of me always. So like if you need to see in front of you, cool. This design for me though, if I was on the Illinois and I had this boat, I would be annoyed. Like it's pretty wide, making it hard to get through some of the narrow channels. And it's a little like, it'd be hard to maneuver because it's so wide. You need a wider frame, which means you also longer oars because it's wider. And I don't like this design, just that long water line with just a ton of rocker. Like I'm not going to want to run this through a lot of things. So I think this is a good boat. I think they could update the design. I think this design this has probably been their standard design for like 30 years. They could make it better for sure. They're just choosing not to. But yeah, it's adequate. If you're on the Rogue, you're fine. It's not a big deal. If you're going to the mid shoot, you might be a tiny bit wide, but you'll figure it out. But at low water, mid shoot, it might be a little wide for you, but whatever. Okay, let's look now at the. So remember what this looks like: long water line, a lot of rocker, pretty wide. Let's look at the wing Surge, just to compare it. I have a bunch of videos you can see if you want to watch videos. So don't hear me talk. You have to hear me talk then too, I guess. So just to let you all know, a lot of you know this. This is a boat I designed, so obviously I like it. I think it's perfect. Honestly, it's based on the Avon Pro, which before it was the perfect boat. We just took the Avon Pro and I just tweaked some things and added a bunch of D-rings. Basically, I gave it a little bit bigger tubes. I think the 23-inch tubes really help. It's hard to flip. It's hard to wrap. The bigger tubes, it means more. It's more that the water has to get over those bigger tubes, and like flipping is harder. So like it's more stable. But although I flipped one on the Illinois this spring, one of these exact boats, so it's possible. But it has the rocker starts by earlier. So the straight section is way smaller. This next section has a little bit of rocker, and you can run the frame into this next section. Like a lot of people think it has to be totally flat to put your frame on. Our frames start at this D-ring and run to this D-ring. It's just a little, the rocker just begins. And that makes the boat, I think, very maneuverable. And then it's gradual rocker. So I'm pretty sure it's less overall rocker, but it starts a little earlier. And so it's more gradual. It's a nice moderate amount of rocker. So this is the boat I love taking down the Illinois as a gear boat at low flow, medium flow, high flow. As a high water paddle boat on the Illinois, it's super stable. We use these on the Rogue as medium-sized gear boats. To me, and everybody I know who's run this boat, they might just be being nice to me, be like, of course because they know I designed it. But like everybody who talks to me is like, yeah, this boat is butter. And that's how I feel. Like this boat it's like for running whitewater, it's butter. But that like ability to run whitewater doesn't really matter if you're running like the Rogue. It matters a tiny bit, right? Like if you're just running the Rogue, I don't know, support local company, buy a SOTAR, you're good. But if you're running like Illinois, Selway, high water middle fork, even low water middle fork, and you can do whatever you want low water middle fork actually. But like if you want to start running some harder stuff in a gearboat and like be more badass with a gearboat, that's what this thing is. Better design. The wing manufacturing, I feel, is a little bit better than the SOTAR manufacturing, but the SOTAR manufacturing is getting better. The advantage of buying from SOTAR is that they're super engaged in the community. You can call them. There's boaters at SOTAR. Jeremiah and SOTAR people are showing up to events. They're really engaged with the community. Wing, you're calling a big corporation, buying a really well-made boat, but they're not going to maybe answer your questions 100% in terms of whitewater stuff. The boat might, and they're not that engaged with the community. And so, I would say this design is superior, and I think that the fabric and just like final product is a little bit superior. So it's a toss up. On depends what you want. So if you want to go run Illinois Selway hard stuff, I'd get this. Otherwise, this SOTAR's fine. Volume wise, the SOTAR is going to hold more because it's wider, has smaller tubes, a little bit smaller tubes, but weight wise, they're about the same. I mean, I've loaded this thing down hard. I've run a super heavy, like one of these boats on the Illinois, and did great. So it can handle the weight. All right, Jason, that was my question, and I'm primarily asking about the internal width and taper of the internal width towards the bow and stern. But these design answers are excellent, very much. I'm asking about the internal width and taper of the internal width towards the bow and the stern. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's probably you can look at the two drawings and do the math. I don't know. Just like I don't know. You can figure out how much internal space there is by looking at the drawings. I'm not going to do it here. Let's just assume the wing has less volume space inside the boat. It doesn't matter because volume can go vertical, right? So you might have less space in between the tubes to put things, but just stack things higher. Because these tubes are bigger, and I think the floor is pretty thick, I'm going to say they can carry the same load, the two boats, the same amount of weight. If your concern is volume, I don't know, stack your stuff higher. Like just go high. But if you need more volume internally, my guess, just by looking at the drawings, we can go back and look at this SOTAR real quick. Oh shoot. So we can look at this. My guess is that there's more volume space inside. Because it's like, because you know why? Because the straight section, such a hard time seeing this thing. It has a longer straight section. The straight section ends earlier, so it starts tapering earlier. So yeah, you get all this volume, but I mean, again, just take stuff vertical and it'll be fine. Okay, Mike went with the wing over that 156R because of the shorter water line on the wing. Yeah, that shorter water line is pretty sweet for running whitewater. Let's go back to wing 16 surge. Let's go back to that drawing. I mean, this boat, let's see. And so this is the boat right here. This is a photo I took of one of our boats. I think this is on the Middle Fork, actually. That's the boat. I mean, that's it right there. That's a good photo of it. The drawing's right here. That short water line, I mean, so there's this short water line right here. It's quite a bit shorter. This next section, it just goes up a tiny bit. It's hardly noticeable. And so it just starts to taper early. And so that was one difference. We took the Avon Pro, which is a classic. The Avon Pro before this was the best boat there was. And that's one thing we did was we started tapering a little bit earlier, both in and up. And the downside of tapering earlier is these thwarts at the end. They're actually different thwarts than the center ones. So, you know, as a paddle boat, you have to know that these thwarts are different. And the thwarts actually are tapered to match this inside taper. So you're getting less volume, but it's just so much more maneuverable because the rocker starts earlier. This boat is amazing, Mike. I hope you're enjoying it because they're beautiful boats. They run so well. But another way to think about this is if you want performance, get the wing. If you want internal volume space, get the SOTAR. That's a difference. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. There's a couple questions here, and then it's coming October. Sweet, Mike. What color are you getting? I'm kind of curious. It doesn't really matter, but I'm kind of curious. October soon. Okay, I saw one more question. Colton, with the expensive wing jumbo and the discontinued air backraft, what are your recommendations for a reasonably priced Packraft style IK? Not very hyped on the shuttle stores alpacas. Yeah, alpacas are weird to me. Alpacas are weird. The Packraft, that was a sweet boat. I still have a handful that we used for some of our trips. It's a bummer they stopped making that because that was a sweet boat. I'm sure they were selling like 3 a year and it wasn't paying off for them. I'm sure it was weight and the warranties on them. I'm sure were driving them nuts. Because what you do is you buy this Packraft thing, and then we would just take it and just destroy them, like take them in the middle of nowhere. They're lighter fabric, and so they're easier to tear, even though they handle them pretty well. But people aren't taking these to easy places. We're taking them to burly places, so that there's a lot of repair with them, and they're Air's warranty is so good, they were just getting hammered on these things. For a reasonably priced Packraft style IK, and the jumbo is good for Packraft. It's the light one, which I'm not sure anybody else owns than me, is 22 pounds. Their normal fabric, which I think most people are buying, is still like 40 pounds. So I've never used anything else, so I don't know for sure. But there's these boats called the Nice kayaks. Let me see if I can find them. And I haven't used these, but I mean, I'd like to use one. They basically built what I think is smart, and I can't say anything about their. Let's see if they look kayaks, about their durability, about anything. But let's look at this single kayak. This is basically like the same as. I mean, this is the design of the jumbo, and before that, with SOTAR, I worked on a boat I called the ATV. This is pretty much the same design. And another way to think of this is like a Cronin without all the rocker. Cronin and I designed the same thing at the same time. I designed this like longer. The way I thought of it was I started with an alpaca, and like let's make the alpaca longer so that the stern doesn't have to be like so annoying. And let's use a little bit thicker fabric. The difference between 7 pounds and 15 pounds and the durability you get isn't a huge deal. Whatever they weigh, whatever stuff weighs. I heard these are light. I don't know how light. So like I like the design generally. I don't see the weight of this thing in there. Oh, it's PVC, so it's probably not that light. This is an option. It has this PVC inflatable floor, which I'm not a huge fan of, but they're pretty affordable if you're looking for cost. It's probably, I'm guessing this thing's like 30 pounds. actually. 0.9 millimeter PVC. It may be less, maybe 20 pounds. Oh, there we go, 38 pounds. Yeah. That's not light. I felt like they had one that was light though. Nope, I guess not. So anyway, I like this design, but it's not that light. SOTAR had a boat. I don't know if he's still making it. Kayaking. He might have stopped making it. Jeremiah made a design that was really cool. I forget what it's called. It was like 10 pounds. Yeah, I didn't like the design of it, but it was like a 10-pound kayak. There's one more out there. If anybody knows what that one more is, what's the other one? There's another brand. Oh, here's a kayak stand here. So the answer is, hey, I'm sorry, probably not much. See if you can find a used Packraft. Oh wait, Cocapelli. I think Cocapelli made something. Let's look that up real quick. I think Cocapelli made something I kind of liked. It was longer. It's the thinner material. Store. Let's see if we can find it. Cocapelli is just like a less expensive alpaca. I think. Oh, here we go. Something like this. Oh gosh, advertising. Something like this that's long might be the way to go. This doesn't look bad. It's a 2-person boat, but it's kind of the idea. You have to, and even if it has the zipper, like you don't have to put things inside the tubes. You can still tie dry bags on. Like I have friends that Packrafted who didn't use the zippers. They just tied their dry bag on their lap. Let's look at Packraft. Look, they might have something new. I haven't looked at their stuff for a while. I mean, you could get one option is to go with like just the biggest Packraft they have. Oh, look, build a custom Packraft. There you go. Maybe that's the way. But something like this, some big long thing, I mean, could be the way to go. Something that's designed to carry a load. Yeah, unfortunately, like that era ended, and I'm not really sure what the deal is. Yeah. So hopefully it answers your question. No good answer. Like, I don't know. Call Jeremiah at SOTAR and see if he'll sell you one of his things. I didn't like that point. I just thought the design. I know what he did design. I think to like because the fabric's expensive, to use the fabric more efficiently and make the boat cost less by having a pattern that's easy to make. The pattern I would want to make is just it was not that efficient with fabric, so it costs extra money because you have waste fabric. And it has more seams, so it's more expensive to produce. And Jeremiah was trying to get the price down because the price is a big deal, especially on these lightweight fabrics. Yeah, so good luck with that. I'm sorry I don't have a good answer for you. Blue. Oh, sweet. Oh, that blue color is cool. You know, I've heard about this 15-foot Williamson wide. Yeah, I'm kind of annoyed by it personally. Because the Williamson was 14.6, and so somebody took my 14.6, made it 6 inches longer, and made it wider, which can't be that different from a Surge. And the 14.6 was based on the Avon Adventurer. If you make it wider, like there's a length to width ratio that is really good for these boats. And by making I was trying to follow like long used length to width ratios when I design these boats. When you make the Williamson wider, it takes away from this like beautiful whatever length to width ratio. I think is perfect for a boat. So somebody designed this boat, and I haven't seen the pit photo of it, but maybe it fills your need. Maybe it's better. Maybe it is better. I'm annoyed by it because they took my design, tweaked it, and now people are buying it. So I don't know much about it to say whether it's good or bad, but we were very careful of the dimensions on that 14.6. Yeah, no, I think they're nice people. Oh, okay, cool. So they made a boat. Basically, what they did was they made a boat. Okay, interesting. Is it 2.1? I forget the ratio that you want. Maybe it's two. Maybe it's better. Yeah, maybe it's superior. It's just like they have the Surge and they have the Williamson. One's 16, one's 14.6, and they needed a 15 that's in between. Seems like the 14.6 and the 16 cover the market, but man. Yeah, maybe that was it because the Surgeon was the one the Surgeon was the first one we designed. That was the one that we designed first, and that one was perfect. So it is 2.18. Maybe the Williamson I had off a little bit. We had a lot of with the Williamson. There were some trade-offs, and so maybe it's not the perfect. Maybe the wide is better, but I wanted a boat that could run Cherry Creek. So I wanted to make like the ultimate Cherry Creek boat that you could also row as gear down the Grand Canyon. That you could also paddle boat down like the South Fork of the American. So it was like the one boat that did it all. Because people are always like, I want to row the Grand Canyon, and I want to run Class 5, and I want to take it as a paddle boat. So that was like a big compromise of like the perfect do-it-all boat. But the key to that boat is it had to be able to run Cherry Creek. It had to be a legit badass boat. And that was an important detail. So yeah, maybe I'd love to see the drawing of the Williamson wide. Actually, go back to my notes and see how close it is. So I think that's it for today. Thank you everybody that asked questions this week. Hopefully I answered them appropriately, correctly, respectfully, and it says my mic is popping or something's rattling. What's going on? Sorry about that. But thank you all for watching. If you have a second to subscribe, I would appreciate that. If anybody does think that it wants to follow up with my mic popping or not, that would help to know because I'll look into it. But it could just be you. But take a second, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribing already. It really does help. Mainly helps my ego. It helps my ego. So if you want to support my healthy ego, hit that subscribe button. I think I might do a show next Tuesday. If not, I'll be home for a while after that. So we'll do them every Tuesday after that. And yeah, thanks everybody for watching, for supporting the show, for being nice, for submitting questions, for leaving comments, for listening to this as a podcast, even though I'm terrible at speaking. Oh, interesting. The rabbit's thumping. You know what? Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. I'll look into it. So yeah, thanks everybody for dealing with the bad audio, and I'll see you in the next episode.